That would be my tip. If you're lonely, get a
dog.
puppy.
Yeah.
It's true. Get a pet.
Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of MSers React. Today we are going to be reacting about Shift.ms forum posts about loneliness and isolation and chatting about how to stay connected with others living with MS. Let's go!
I am feeling incredibly lonely as I seem to do everything alone. Does anyone else feel this isolation?
Yeah, I totally agree with this. I think when you don't know many MSers, it's hard to do things about MS with people who hasn't got MS. So you're always doing your own research to try and find these things, even if you go to a group, you go into it alone with people who are probably already established a group. So it's quite hard to jump in from the outside. It's definitely a tough time when you first get diagnosed as well. Even though you might have the whole world around you, it's still you going through this and still you doing things yourself in your own head, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. I didn't know where to go. And that's probably why I found it lonely, because I didn't have anything that told me kind of where the community was. And it was nice to have to connect in that kind of way when I did know. And I think it would have helped loneliness. Even
though now you've got a lot of influencers on Instagram or Facebook. Back when I was diagnosed, I wasn't on Instagram. I didn't know much about Facebook. So you try and engage with people on there, but it's kind of like, who are you engaging with? You're just sending an email to someone who you probably are never going to meet, and you don't even know if you're going to get a reply, really.
Yeah, and I think it takes quite a lot of time, because I remember the first couple of years I didn't really feel brave enough to properly take that step into like online world anyway. I just didn't really know where to go or how to connect with other people that were at kind of the same part of their journey as I was. I literally didn't know anyone else with the condition, so it wasn't kind of there was anyone that I could chat with or catch up with that I actually already knew. So I also think it feels a bit scary kind of taking that leap and being like, I have MS and do you want to be buddies and kind of like have a chat about this? Like that seemed a very big step, and it took a couple of years, and once I did that I was really glad that I did. But it did mean that the first year or two, I felt really isolated. Kind of part of me was like, is this just me? Like, you know that other people have the condition, but you kind of think everyone else that was like 24 and 25 that I knew was out and living their lives and not having to sleep like 15 hours a day. So you feel really isolated.
Yeah, I was going to say, I took this question to be kind of more general, in that I can relate to that, in that not going to work, I am on my own all the time. Like Matthew does 12-hour shifts, so he'll be out of the house 6 till 6, and I'm on my own. And I sort of do everything on my own. But yeah, I don't know, the things I do, sometimes I will just go to the supermarket just for like 1 or 2 things, because it's like, I actually miss human interaction. Like, I love humans, but as this post says, I can relate to that. I wish I had a load of answers for it, because I'm still working on it myself. Yeah, I mean, if anyone does have any more answers to this.
I relate to what you just said as well. Like, I didn't think about it in that sense, but like, I don't work either. I've been at home for like years actually. And I went from a very highly socialized life, and I had to start my podcast and my Instagram to feel connected with other people, because I actually don't even drive. So I don't even have that option. So I kind of feel stuck in the house. So I've had to kind of cultivate by connecting with, like, on Instagram, on Twitter, with hashtags, just putting multiple sclerosis in and finding people and connecting, so that I feel like, I've got someone to speak to that really does understand what I'm saying, because they're dealing with something similar. But also just to not feel alone by just seeing images of people and TikToks even that just are highly relatable. So I can go, yeah, me too. Like, I totally feel like that too. So I totally get it from that perspective as well.
I think it's important not to venture away from your interests, though. Don't think of it as, I can't continue doing what I want to do because it was active, or, it was very social. But there's people all over the world to connect with these days. I say it all the time, Instagram and Facebook is a bad place, but it's a really good place as well. It's bad if I'm talking to the kids. It's good if I'm on it myself. And, you can connect with people who might have ways around you not being able to do how you want to do it, but you can still do it because they found a way to do it. Wow.
Yeah,
Really
I
impressed.
agree. Same with yoga. Kat, you go to hot yoga, and I can't obviously, like I said, go outside, but I found like yoga with Adrian on YouTube.
Oh,
It's
she's
adaptable
great.
yoga.
I'm
Don't
gonna
you love
start.
her?
Me and Matthew are going to start doing that because he
She
wants
is
to do some
brilliant.
yoga.
This year she changed the concept, so she sends the video out at 10 a.m. UK time every day, and you go into it and it's like stream live in, so you're doing yoga but you can see that there's like 5,000 people doing it with you at that same time, and they talk in the forum, so you feel less alone. It's not MS related, but keeping your body movement is great. And like, I love yoga, like Dave said, like having those like hobbies and things that you love still going and just adapting around it is just fabulous.
And I think you can also find new things as well. I think it's super important to keep on with the things that you've enjoyed before. But there's some things that I've started that I wouldn't have done before. So I now go to RDA horse riding, which is riding for people with disabilities. And I was always like terrified of horse riding. I really wanted to do it. Like, I really, really enjoy it. And you're with other people that also have like similar difficulties to you, but because it is RDA, you're very well looked after. But if it hadn't been for MS and trying to think of other things that I could do where I felt safe within the environment, that I would never have done, and now it's like my favorite part of the week. So it is also trying to look for like those new experiences as well. My friendships have dwindled away over the last few years. I used to party hard, and almost all of my socializing was done in that environment. Then, as I gradually became more unwell, I couldn't keep up with it anymore. When I stopped going out, people lost interest in becoming friends with me.
Yeah, I relate to that massively.
Yeah.
Actually, I was super like 18-year-old running around town, fashionista, going to like parties with drag queens and living my best life, doing fashion shows and runways. And then one day I couldn't do that. And I felt like all the people that wanted to be next to me in those moments were calling me up every week, every day. What do you want to do? Do you want to go out? Over the first year, because I couldn't always say yes, it just disappeared. It kind of made me really sad when, like, after being in that kind of arena and doing those things, that all those people stopped messaging me to ask me to go out anymore because I couldn't always say yes, because I didn't always feel great. And that's kind of like an emotional experience that I went through, and I had to like kind of release the emotions I felt behind that, because you can feel a bit like, you know, you've done nothing wrong, but you kind of feel like, well, what's wrong with me? Like no one's inviting me out anymore.
Oh, do you know, yeah, I can relate so hard to that. It's weird because I actually feel like I went through this before years before my diagnosis, because obviously I was ill a long time ago. It was even when in my early 20s, when people were wanting to go out, I could never understand why I didn't really want to. Like, it was kind of like a low-key thing in the back of my mind. Like, I'd sort of avoid it. And it got to the point where I would just go to people's houses, like my friends' houses, for pre-drinks, and they'd all go out and I'd go home. And I lost friends then, because they were like, you know, you're boring. Like, why do you never want to come out with us? Like, and in my head, I'd be like, actually, no, really. Like, if I did go out, I'd always just feel like really, really bad and just like be out in a club, and I'd be like, oh, I just want to go home. But I was obviously really, really fatigued, but just didn't know about it. But there was a whole group of friends who were pretty vile to me, and I had a relapse, and it was after my first bodybuilding competition. And I remember one of them saying to me, yeah, well, you know, you've done this to yourself. Like, obviously we didn't know what it was then, but I was quite ill. And I just remember it was like they were like shaming me for this, like, firstly being so poorly, because apparently it was all my fault, and then also just that I didn't want to do everything that they were doing, or I couldn't do everything they were doing. You know, I've got brain fog, I forget things, and they would pull me up on every little thing and just like nitpick, and it would be like, and in my head I'd think, I'm really trying here. But yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely not friends with them anymore. But I'm just kind of like, when I got my diagnosis, I thought to myself, I really hope that they do think about the impact that their behaviour did have back then, because I was just trying to look after myself and still be included. And whereas now, my circle's got smaller and smaller, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well. But the people that I now socialise with, I can say, I feel like shit.
I was never a party hard kind of guy before MS. I was at the gym a lot doing strongman and stuff, and I had quite a good group of people that we'd always do strongman with every week. Obviously getting MS kind of kind of stopped doing the strongman so regularly, and when I did, I was only there to watch. Basically, I was just like someone on the side looking in. But yeah, a similar thing happened, is that they kept doing the strongman, and they invite me, but then it just stopped because I stopped going. They stopped inviting me, and that's when I kind of fell into a bit of depression and a bit of a bad state about myself. And then it was myself like starting disabled strongman up again, and realizing I could adapt things to how I want to, so I could still continue to do that. It took years to get there though. Kind of found a different group of people to hang out with, and a different group, like they're just more welcoming, more like adapting, and actually want to help you. It's funny, the people in the first group, they're trying to be my friend again now. They want to be famous. They want to come to Gymshark Club and stuff. They want to come with me, but I'm like, nah. I'm about my new community.
I'm like Dave, I've never been a party person. I must say, even like in my teens and early 20s, tucked up in bed with the book was my idea of like perfect evening. So I can't say I've ever kind of had that lifestyle, but definitely before the MS, like I was always out like doing acting classes and doing bits of filming for things. So a lot of my social side came from that. And then when I wasn't well and wasn't able to be like filming like 12-hour days and things, it just feels like such a loss, because not only are you losing something that you enjoyed doing and being able to go and do that whenever you want, you also lose those people. And even though they kind of dwindled off and I was like, oh, they just can't be bothered, or like they haven't got the patience. But actually talking to a couple of people later on, I realized actually part of it was they didn't know what to do either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of made me realize that actually some people just, they were like, well, I felt bad asking, and then like when you kept saying no, that made me feel bad, because then maybe I was making you feel bad. And it kind of makes you realize that there's so many different things going on that can lead to the same situation as well.
I'm curious to know if there are many East Asian MSers slipping under the radar in the UK. I was told in Edinburgh I was probably the first Chinese and Angular to be diagnosed. Weirdly, part of me was quite chuffed, as I thought to myself I was unique, yet at the same time raging that I had drawn the short straw. It's like, is it important to find people to connect with that are like you in the MS society? I feel like maybe they're asking, because obviously now they feel like they're possibly like alone, and just one person that would relate to them culturally as well as with MS that has it. As an MSer who is of colour, I dealt with something very similar when I got diagnosed, because when I was going to forums and even to in-person places, no one was of colour. Like everyone was technically an older white woman. And part of me, like them, felt like, okay, well, I'm clearly very unique, because the neurologist wouldn't stop telling me, your case is unique, you're young, you're brown, we wouldn't think you'd have this, which meant that no one around me was young or brown or had MS. And I was kind of angry because I didn't know where to turn to. And although I met some amazing people to connect with, I think it's a unique experience finding someone that fits all the labels that maybe you have. So as a queer MSR that's of colour, when I met another queer MSR that was like lesbian and of colour, I was like, oh my God. And it was like a different connection, a different experience.
Yeah, I think there's so many people doing so many good things, again, on social media about different ethnicities and different cultures surrounding MS. I mean, you've got Roxy, for example, for one, who's probably one of the best advocates out there, and I know of like 3 or 4 others who just shout all the time about it, and I think they're changing the game really for the diverse groups, I guess.
When I was first diagnosed, it was like, oh yeah, this is a white woman's illness, and that was very much kind of pushed until I actually researched myself and read and connected with other people in the community, and I was like, this isn't true. But like, that is such a held belief by a lot of medical professionals, and I'm assuming that I find it very hard to believe that this person is completely alone, but it's just this weird like stereotype of it being a white women's illness, and that's just not true.
Also, a lot of people might not be speaking up, because in my community, a lot of people of colour were not talking about their illnesses openly. So it wasn't that they didn't have it, it's just that like they weren't advocating socially on media or anywhere else about it. So people just thought they were alone because no one was saying it.
I think, no, it's so important just to know that you're not alone, and then linking into the other questions, feeling isolated about it. Because I think MS, even like Katt was saying, and like how there is like a stereotypical image of it. So when I was 24, it's because you're 24, it's like, oh, well, of course you have got that. And of course it can't be anything too serious because you're still really young. So then straight away, that makes you feel like really isolated and alone and thinking, well, what's going on and why is it happening to me? So I think that's the other really important thing about speaking out, is it because it makes you realise that it isn't just you.
But you're not alone, by the way, whoever's listening to this, that wrote this conversation, you're not alone, because there is Asian MSers groups, there's Black MS, there's Foundation, there's all these other places that if you feel like you are the only person in any sector, queer, male, anything, can even be trans, there's groups and there's people, and there's even Shift.ms has equity, not just equality, two different things, and we are not alone, and there's definitely someone else you can be connected with that probably either has MS or may have someone with MS in their family, so connect.
I don't usually feel like my MS isolates me, but the past month I have had so many worries and uncertainties about how to manage COVID-19, and the people close to me struggle to relate. I feel like this is quite a recent question. Don't know why, I'm just getting recent vibes.
Unsure.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people with MS were obviously on the at risk or high risk, but I feel like I'm very lucky to have 5 different people in this house to kind of entertain me. So for me, lockdown, as hard as it was, I didn't isolate away from my family, so I was very lucky on that thing.
I was really lucky during lockdown as well. I live at home with my partner and our dog, and I go to see my mum. So in that sense, like, I wasn't kind of cut off from people that were like in my immediate circle. I think the only times that I've struggled is especially on my new treatments. Like, it works by kind of like killing off part of your immune system, so then like nice friendly cells can re-emerge. And especially kind of more recently, when some people were like, well, we can just kind of get back to normal now, and then I'm then like, well, not quite, because if I get it, then I'm still at like pretty high risk of like being seriously ill with it. So I kind of find that a struggle. And sometimes if you go to places and like people don't have their masks and they're like, well, life is back to normal now, and you're kind of thinking, that sounds great, but I still have to really worry about it because I don't know how ill I would become if I did get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose mine is maybe slightly controversial with this in that I spent the first lockdown completely on my own. I'm not exaggerating when I say by the end of it I was suicidal. It drove me mental, like not having any human contact, not speaking to anyone, not being able to hug anyone. It was literally just me and Murphy, my dog, who has passed away now. But I remember thinking like, I need to balance my mental health and my physical health and kind of find somewhere in the middle that kind of takes both of them into consideration, because actually they are both important. But you can only shield yourself to a point, like in that I've kind of potentially done things that probably other people wouldn't do, but that's what I'm doing for myself because I know how much the first one affected me and I couldn't do it again.
I agree. I take calculated risks. Like, I do isolate quite a lot, but I'm unique because I stopped taking Ocrevus at the start of the pandemic and gave myself a break. Because I was obviously nervous with the whole knocking my B cells out and being totally like, you know, and I wanted to live a bit of life. So I felt like I weighed up my options and think that was good, which also allowed me to get vaccinated in that time, which meant that I actually created antibodies, which was perfect for me. I do see people, but I do go, can we do a lateral therapies? I've even done a job for the BBC not long ago where it was on set and everyone had to do lateral throws. So I've just taken that kind of concept into my life. I've been like, I want to see you. I'll interact with very select people, so certain friends and certain family members, but ones that I know that protect themselves. Take calculated risk is what I'm trying to say. Like, take calculated risk. Please take your vitamins, vitamin D, eat your vegetables, pick the right people. Hopefully they wear masks, they wash their hands. Because like Katt said, mental health is massive and people forgot about that in the pandemic. So I started doing things like Katt did, like, you know, it probably is a silly risk to someone else, but I've calculated it and I've gone, can you do a lateral flow test? And I've definitely sanitized everything on the way in and the way out.
That would be my tip if you're lonely. Get
Get a
fucking
dog.
puppy.
Yeah.
It's true. Get a pet.
Well, that is why I got her, because I'm on my own all the time. And I had
Yeah.
obviously had Murphy for 13 years, and I've had 6 months of being completely on my own, and I need something to pour my love into and someone to just kind of have by my side, and I think it was a good decision.
For me, a big one would be to reach out to people, whether they're in your immediate community or, we live in a world now where you can reach out to people wherever they are. Like us 4 or 5, we've never met in person, but the power of social media and the internet has brought us together, and now I can already tell we're best friends, and I'm gonna come round for dinner. But no, reach out, and it doesn't even need to be reaching out with another disabled person. It could be reaching out to someone you share the same interests. And I'm not talking about reaching out to David Beckham or something, because you're likely not going to get an answer. But for me, it's been a big one.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most important thing is just to reach out to other people with MS, or even just people that are close to you. But I think the worst thing to do is not to say anything. So if you are feeling isolated or lonely, not to kind of sit and hold those feelings, even if you kind of go and see a counsellor or therapist or someone, but just to get out and kind of like express and acknowledge those feelings. And then when you're ready, connect with other MSers and things really makes a huge difference.
And you know what, if they don't answer back, don't get disheartened. It's just that some people might be afraid to answer back, or they might not even just see it. If you get an answer back from somebody, and that means the world, because they've taken the time to read your message and connect back with you. But if they don't take it personally.
Yeah, I agree. I would go for like joining a group or a forum, like a hobby, like doing one virtually or in person, whatever is easier for you. Worldwide is great. Don't always feel like you're isolated to the UK, in UK or whatever location you are in the world, because everyone wants to kind of connect. Use hashtags. Just put multiple sclerosis hashtags in and you'll find people. And trust me, there's a lot of people in there begging to connect with other people. And they, like you said, Dave, might be scared to reply. So, you making the first move sometimes can actually be good. Read books. I know that's weird, but sometimes reading books can make you feel less isolated, takes your mind to other places and out of that feeling of like loneliness. And also the buddy network. Shift.ms has a buddy network. Like, go and sign up and find a buddy that will definitely help you through the first stages and possibly able to point you in places that are going to be highly connected. And learn a new skill if you can. Why not? It takes multiple things to feel less isolated. There's like multiple strands of different things that you put in your box, and then that sense makes you feel less isolated and more connected. Overall, actually, it's probably a good way to go. Maybe there's not one right answer, but there's multiple things you can do and gives you a whole slice of cake.
Thank you so much for watching.
You can find people going through diagnosis or others who are more experienced on www.shift.ms.
The community for people living with multiple sclerosis.
And if you want to watch more videos like this, please click the playlist here. Bye.